I mean, I'm just going to be blunt. I can do my entire process and how I like prefer to make music. I can do it all with. Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. And for those of you who are new here, my name is Jacob Williams. I am a full-time professional music producer and composer. Today, we're going to be talking about gear, everyone's favorite subject of discussion in the music making world for one reason or another. I even like gear. I'm not completely absolved of the want to acquire gear, but today we're going to be talking about the truth about music gear in the year of 2026. I've watched a lot of videos that talk about and touch on this kind of topic over the however many years I've been making music. I've kind of compiled my own opinions on the matter, and maybe this will help you guys with making certain judgment calls when it comes to, like, especially if you're starting out, like where do you even start with when it comes to microphones or interfaces. I'm not going to get too specific in this video. I'm just going to touch very generally on a couple of principles that might kind of help guide you in terms of when you start buying gear, or if there's something on the market that you've been looking to grab to sort of improve your workflow or to help you create. Maybe this will help you just make better calls. I don't know, but I just felt like throwing this out into the ether because it was just something that has been on my mind lately, and hopefully you guys will benefit. So first, we're going to talk about a concept called in the box. And what in the box means is everything that comes in your DAW, whether you've chosen Ableton, FL, Logic, whatever your software of choice is, everything that comes with your software is referred to in the music industry as in the box. And it means that, you know, you open up your DAW, you have a list of stock plugins. Sometimes DAWs come with samples already that you can grab, like drums. And what's great about this is it gives a lot of new producers that don't really have a lot of resources just the ability to start. You can start making stuff. The first DAW that I've ever picked up was FL Studio back in the day, and it came with, I mean, literally anything that you could possibly need. Like, you don't even need third-party plugins, but I would say that rule even applies across the board. In the box stuff still works, and it's still just as professional as anything else. You can literally use it in a professional setting. You can use it in a hobby setting. You can use it if you're posting your beats on BeatStars. Like, I mean, you don't really need any third-party plugins to be creatively successful. You just don't. And that's a hard pill, I think, for a lot of people to swallow, because you see all these oversaturated markets of this new plugin. Oh, these plugins are dominating in 2026. And I even have my personal takes on it. I am not ashamed to admit, like, I use some third-party plugins here and there for things. I have my own collection of stuff that works for very specific things. Like, for example, I use the RVox, mostly use it just like for vocals because I think the sound is incredible. I still just use the basic Logic Platinum Digital compressor, honestly, for most of my compression jobs. I personally like using that third-party plugin because it just helps me achieve a certain sound. Just like with pitch correction, I prefer the Antares auto-tune sound versus the in-the-box pitch correction. But what I will say is, for years, like for literally 6-7 years, I just used the basic pitch correction that comes with Logic, and it works just fine. You almost don't even need auto-tune. Auto-tune is completely bougie. My argument overall is in the box in 2026 still works. Do not be ashamed to say, I just use stock plugins. You don't have to be the cool guy on social media that uses all these really expensive plugins, because the bottom line is they do allow you to do some really great things with your productions. They do give you a lot more nuance to what you do, but they don't complete your work, and you can still be creatively successful with in the box plugins and sounds. Next thing I want to kind of move along with is sort of a concept that I recently just learned, and it's something I've kind of always known about but never really had my own experience with it. And it's that all analog gear means is it's analog. There is still a sound difference between digital gear and analog gear. I want to be first and foremost about that because there is a science behind it. It is a literal mechanical device that processes sound in an analog way. Again, depending on what type of analog we're talking about here, but I'm going to use like analog synthesizers as an example. So I recently bought the Behringer JT Mini. It's like a little mini synth. I got it for myself because I wanted a physical synth that I can actually dial the knobs with. It's just sitting right over there by my beat pad. What's great about this thing is it did exactly what I wanted it to do. So when I bought it, I was like, it's going to inspire me to use it more for like synthwave projects or projects requiring analog synth. It's going to inspire me to do things. And it did do that, but probably for about a couple weeks. And I was very humbled by that because I still found myself just jumping to Serum, jumping to Vital, grabbing ES2 and retro synth and Logic just to get the job done, instead of taking the steps to plug in my JT Mini and actually dial in some analog sounds, which took me like 3 times the time than just using a soft synth. So I was very humbled. I still use my JT Mini from time to time when I need just a little extra inspiration, or when I feel like designing a sound 100% myself with analog circuitry and with analog synth work. But at the end of the day, you don't need it in 2026. There are so many powerful VSTs out there that are digital. Just like the other point we just talked about, in the box is good, digital is also good. But however, if you do want an analog sound or a specific sound from a piece of gear, there's nothing wrong with validating that too. But just know that you don't need it. You don't need to spend an extra $100 on an analog synth. You can just get a free VST that sounds relatively the same and just process it a little to make it sound kind of real. My next favorite thing to talk about in this whole gear argument, especially nowadays that the market is just so bombarding. There's so many like marketing campaigns and so many like buy this now before it goes out of style, and whoa, you guys aren't even gonna understand what this plugin can do for your mixes. There's just so much out there trying to push you to buy things. Here's what I would write up or chalk things up in terms of like, let's just say a list of types of gear that exist out there. There's cheap and probably doesn't sound that good. And then there's standard and can be used in a professional setting at a consumer price. So cheap and sounds bad. Consumer price sounds pretty good. And then pro audio equipment would be number 3. 4 would be super, super expensive and bougie. And you kind of want, I would say, let's say if you're starting out, or if you're you've kind of been making music for a while and you want to get like a new microphone or a new audio interface or a MIDI keyboard or something like that, you might want to look in the 2 section first, and then maybe the 3rd if your budget allows it, but kind of always lean towards the 2. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because sometimes 3 and 4 is just not that worth it. Like, okay, a lot of people swear by, once they buy like a $4,000 pro guitar, they're like, I'm never going back, blah, 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 blah. I personally have worked with an $800 guitar and even recently a $250 guitar that you see back there that I actually got from a garage sale for like $25. Best steal of my life. But I use that for most of my work anyways, because I just process the guitar later and make it sound pro as best as I could. And the thing plays good for only being a couple $100. So consumer price, I definitely recommend above all, because you don't want to break the bank. You want to see if something will even do what you want it to do before you invest a ton of money. You do not want your favorite hobby or potential job to be a complete money pit. That being said, there is a small little asterisk I want to put on here. There are some things that are worth investing in. Like, for example, take my monitors back here, the Kali LP8s. These guys are probably one of the best investments I've made on music gear. I would put them more in the pro category. They're not super expensive monitors, but they are a step above what I would dub to be consumer price audio monitors. But they have improved my production ability, my mixing ability, and my sort of perception the more I've used them of the stereo field and where I'm hearing stuff in my mixes. So I will say there are exceptions to this always, depending on what you're looking at. Try to lean between 2 and 3, I guess, just depending on where you're at financially. I guess next we can lead this into like essentials. Like, if you're starting completely from scratch with gear, like let's say you want to make music and you have no idea where to start, we'll probably do an entire video just talking about this in general. But if I was to give like a bird's eye view of this, a place that we can start is in 2026, I would recommend get a computer first. This is obvious. This is completely like square one. Unless you're doing stuff on a phone or an iPad, you definitely want a solid computer, whether that's a laptop, a actual PC, depending on what DAW you're choosing, or I have a Mac Mini back there that I run my whole studio with. Again, it really just depends on what DAW you're using and how much stuff you're going to be processing, how much gear you're going to be running through things, but start with a computer. Okay, because that's your center for everything. That's where all your stuff goes. That's where you're running your software from. That's where you're plugging everything in. The computer is the heart of your bedroom studio, of your work. Everything is going in and out of that brick. Next, you're going to want to invest in a good pair of headphones. I would recommend headphones over speakers personally because it kind of gives you a little bit of privacy depending on what your situation is. I know when I started working on music, I lived with my family, so it kind of gave me, a lot of opportunity to not bother anybody while I was working. But also from a sort of technical standpoint, you get to hear a lot of the details of the mix a lot more than you can on speakers. It feels a lot more personal. So I would invest in headphones first. Then I would invest in a decent audio interface next. The reason for that is because with audio interfaces, they kind of help with latency. They kind of help with quality as well, processing your sound output and input, depending on if you're going to start investing in instruments or recording with instruments and microphones and stuff. So I would highly recommend computer first, headphones, and then an audio interface. The next two optional ones would be a pair of speakers, just a decent pair of speakers, even if it's just a pair of speakers that aren't really that good for music production, just even computer speakers that you can hear your mixes on, and then a MIDI controller. And the reason why MIDI controller is optional is because you don't need it. It does help if you have musicianship and you want to actually like play piano or play melodic parts or grooves or actually perform the drums in your productions, but you don't need it. Every DAW has a pencil tool that you can pencil in notes. At the end of the day, you can just create an entire amazing song just with a computer. So that would be my tiered recommendations in terms of what order you should get your gear if you're starting out. And lastly, this is a term that I actually coined myself while I was writing this script. I'm going to call it exhaust before expense. Have you used your gear and what you currently have to the absolute limit before you even think about upgrading or before you even think about buying something or getting something in its place or alongside it to improve your workflow? For example, I have two MIDI controllers, two main ones that I use. The other ones are more for live performing and stuff like that, but I have a Kai LPK, like a little mini MIDI controller. And I also have a Arturia Keylab 49, just like my main controller that you see right here. I mean, I'm just going to be blunt. I can do my entire process and how I prefer to make music. I can do it all with the smaller MIDI keyboard. However, there are some pros to using the Keylab. It has a lot of macros on it. It has a wider range. It's got better performing keys, so my performances come out better in terms of velocity and just how they sound. It also has a slot for a sustain pedal that you can't really see there, but it's on the floor. So I can actually use a sustain pedal for piano performances to make them sound more real. There's a lot of benefits to having a bigger controller like that, but I don't necessarily need it. I got to a point with smaller MIDI controllers where I had used them over and over and over and over and over again. I completely got to a point where I was like, okay, my musicianship is kind of outweighing this small little tiny MIDI controller. I think it's time for me to upgrade to the bigger ones so that I can have a faster workflow and a better workflow. And I think that is probably the best way to view gear. Like, for example, all the gear that I currently have that you'll see in the description of this video, I currently do not have a need to upgrade right now. If I start, recording more artists in my room, if I start doing more things that require me to have more inputs, or if I start getting a little better at piano or guitar and I need to get a pedal board, or I need to get a bigger keyboard, like a double length one or another one on the other side of me or something, that's when I'll start looking into that. Or let's say my headphones are all of a sudden not cutting it, which I don't think that'll ever happen because I absolutely love those things, the Audio-Technica MX 50s. If I ever reach a point where I'm just like, wow, man, I've just completely exhausted my use for this thing, that is when I will upgrade any piece of my gear. So that is a philosophy that I personally adhere to, and I highly recommend that if you're a hobbyist or if you're new, definitely adopt that, because it'll make you even appreciate what you have just a little more, and it'll kind of make you resist some of this marketing crazy stuff that just gets pushed out to a lot of us musicians, where we feel compelled to buy this new thing that'll just make us sound better or do stuff better. And maybe we'll do some more videos on that topic, because there's actually a lot of really great examples that I can't really cover in this video. If you liked what you heard today, please leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you have anything else that you want to add to this conversation, please feel free to leave a comment, and I look forward to hearing your guys' responses. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.